Welcome to episode 3 of Rising Up and Finding the Power Within. In this episode, we will continue our exploration of the subtle yet powerful manipulation phrases often used by abusers and those who seek to control others. These phrases can be deceptively simple, yet they carry profound implications that can undermine our self-esteem, distort our perceptions, and trap us in cycles of emotional turmoil. So, whether you've encountered these phrases in your relationships, or are simply seeking to deepen your understanding of emotional manipulation, this episode is for you. Let's dive in and uncover the truth behind the words that can hold so much power over our lives.
Alrighty. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I want to go over some of the phrases that you receive from a manipulator or an abuser, what it means, like what its purpose is. And I also wrote a little short story for each one to help my listeners understand more what that phrase means. And after I tell you the short story, I kind of want to dig into the ego of the manipulator in the story. So what exactly that individual was feeling, and then help you reprogram. So we're going to take these in steps, and each one of them, and I'm going to go over, these are the phrases I want to cover. You're too sensitive. I was just joking. You're overreacting. You're lucky you have me. I'm the only one who cares, which irritates me. You always do this, so minimizing. And I'm going to go over each one of these phrases and just really give a description of what I feel they are. And I think that, from all my studies, all those answers that I was getting is exactly why I'm kind of putting this all together. So you're too sensitive is the first one I want to talk about. Now, this phrase is used to dismiss and invalidate anybody's feelings. Your emotional reactions are excessive and unwarranted, and the abuser often uses it to exert control and minimize their partner's emotional experiences, so making them feel as if their feelings are not legitimate. And it's really difficult, especially if these phrases are being said in public in front of others, on having the composure to handle those. It's understandable if you have to walk away, go to the bathroom. There are ways to get away to and compose yourself again. So the story I came up with is Emily and Jake. Now, Emily is the emotional one, obviously. Jake is the manipulator. I'm not going to say obviously, because it can be the other way also, because I've been hearing a lot of stories about women, which is really sad. But she is a cook, and she loves to cook, and that was one of her things. So in front of her friends who came over for dinner, there was some jokes made about her cooking and stuff like that, but it wasn't bad from her friends. But then Jake turned around and made a big joke about it, and then he laughed at her. He says, "Why are you so sensitive?" And that made her feel uncomfortable. She was embarrassed, and he shrugged it off, and there was just he wasn't there for her. He didn't identify, because his emotional intelligence isn't probably very good. And yours, you just showed that you were uncomfortable. This left Emily feeling foolish and made second guess herself, not to react next time. And also, are my feelings valid? You start questioning yourself. And what it is Jake's ego is inflated, and he needs to exert dominance and control. And by dismissing Emily's feelings, he reinforces his position of power, making her feel small and invalidated. And this tactic allows him to avoid accountability for the bad remark he made about her cooking, and his hurtful comments, in maintaining an image of superiority, because he wants to be in control. So what can Emily do? What can people in this situation do that receive this type of behavior? Embrace your sensitivity. It's a strength. Keep a journal and recognize and reflect on all the instances where your sensitivity has helped you understand others. And also remind yourself that your emotions are valid and deserving of recognition. So you being too sensitive should be a compliment, not the way he's saying it. My mom used to say, "Oh, you think you're smart." And when I took that phrase and I applied it in a different tone, it's not a bad phrase, but the way she said it made it bad. The next one I want to discuss is I was joking. Inflicting pain on someone is not funny. If you see your children being tickled by the manipulator, the abuser, whoever, and the children start to cry because the tickling starts to hurt, because the abuser is becoming too rough, and then he can just get up and say, "I was just joking. I didn't mean to hurt you," and make it like the child should just bear it and just let it go. Now, this phrase often is used to deflect responsibility for hurtful comments and allowing the abuser to escape accountability. By reframing their remarks as jokes, they manipulate the victim into feeling foolish for being hurt and effectively silencing their concerns. That's their goal. They don't want to approach it again. They want it to be dropped. I was joking, but they meant to hurt you. They just don't want to take accountability. So it needs to end right there, because that's the next step. In this short story, I have Sarah and Mark. And during a casual conversation, Sarah shared her dreams of starting a small business. And Mark sarcastically said, "Oh, sure, because that's going to work out." And then he turns around and says, "Oh, I was just joking," laughing. But Sarah felt her heart sink. And instead of feeling supported, she felt foolish for even mentioning her aspirations. And as days turned into weeks, she found herself hesitating to even share her ideas because these jokes are not funny and they would chip away at her confidence. Now, what could Sarah do? Mark's ego, he's thriving on making himself feel superior by belittling her and others, and by using humor to mask his hurtful comments. He deflects any responsibility for this emotional harm that he's caused. And this creates a dynamic where Sarah is left questioning her self-worth and creativity. So that probably will silence her with her ambition, right? Reprogram Sarah. Set healthy boundaries, understanding that jokes that are at your expense are not acceptable. Role play scenarios with a trusted friend where you can practice getting stronger. As far as a hurtful remark comes, your internal response needs to be strong. And you need to have that confidence knowing that that individual, and just push it right back onto them. This is not your pain to carry. They're putting their pain and low self-esteem on you. You might want to say, "I know you meant it as a joke, but that comment hurt my feelings." And just start to learn to express. Because if you don't start expressing in a healthy way, all of that pain just gets stored in your body and you start to lose your voice. So that's why they say, get your voice, because you're speaking out and you're standing up for yourself. Another one is you're overreacting. This phrase, it minimizes the victim's valid emotion, suggesting that their reaction they're just out of line. And it's used to invalidate their feelings and maintain control over that emotional landscape of that relationship. So the story I came up with that, and of course these are really short. They're just, this is Maya and her significant other, Tom. Maya was exhausted and needed some space to recharge. When she expressed her need for alone time, her boyfriend, Tom, he retorted to, "Come on, you're overreacting. It's just a little time together." And Maya felt her heart drop. Her need of self-care was dismissed. He wanted her attention. It was like, "You're not important. I want you to be with me and do what I want to do." And that emotional weight of his words made her doubt her feelings, or made her feel as if she wasn't worthy and she should just put herself aside all the time. And each time she tried to use her voice for her needs, he reacted and made her feel like she was the problem. So his ego, Tom, relies on maintaining control over that emotional landscape of that relationship. He is labeling Maya. Her feelings are valid, and he's saying that she's overreacting. Like, why would you want to have alone time and rest when you could be with me? That's more important, right? So he put her self needs aside and just made it where it was all about him. And then he minimized and he reinforced his needs as a dominance. So she could get programmed to dismiss whatever thoughts that would come up on taking care of herself and replace them on how can I take care of Tom. Now, that creates a huge, issue for her if she lets him get away with it, of course. And depending on how much he's done this to her, her self-value for time for herself has probably diminished. Now, his ego relies on maintaining that control over that emotional landscape of the relationship by labeling Maya's valid feelings as overreactions also. And he minimizes her needs, reinforcing his needs. And what she could do is just recognize that everyone has different thresholds for emotional responses, number one, and have positive affirmations that it's okay to feel how I feel. And when you feel overwhelmed, take a moment to breathe deeply and remind yourself that it's okay to express your feelings. And if he doesn't respect those, then she's going to have to get creative with the solution to make her point that she matters. It depends on how much he also tore her down. Now, the next one is, you're lucky to have me. Oh, of course. So this is a phrase that's designed to create a false sense of dependency and gratitude. It positions the abuser as an essential to the victim's happiness, if you can understand that, reinforcing a power imbalance in that relationship. I've seen a lot of domestic violence movies where they have the husband sitting down at the table demanding dinner, and the wife goes over, and because the peas aren't on the right side of the plate, he just knocks the plate out of her hand, calls her stupid, and all the food falls all over, then yells at her to clean it. So to me, that's kind of like the same, in my story here, it's Lila and Alex. They've been together for several years. I wanted to put a little bit of length in there. And when she expressed a desire to try new things and explore hobbies outside of the relationship, he responded with, well, you're lucky to have me. I can't believe you think about leaving. So he takes it and exerts it to the highest level versus saying, gosh, yeah, absolutely. Explore things that will make you happy, and things that my husband and I are completely different on our hobbies. So we respect each other when we go out to do them. I want him to go out and do his, and he wants me to do mine. Now, that made her feel trapped. His words made her question her worth, and she began to think about any chance of happiness was tied to his approval. And it's like, well, I can't be happy unless he approves it. And so she felt stuck with him, and that's not a fulfilling feeling. Now, what's happening with Alex's ego, he's bolstering by the belief that he is irreplaceable in Lila's life, making her feel fortunate to have him. And he reinforces his power and creates a dependency. This manipulation fosters an environment where Lila feels she cannot seek fulfillment outside this relationship. Programming. What can she do to unprogram? She can cultivate self-worth. Now, since she's been with him for several years, that it's going to take time, because that's a lot of time that you've been programmed, and now undoing it is a process to start, but it's doable, and it can be done. Shifting your focus from dependence on others for validation to recognizing your own self-worth. That's what I would tell her. And creating a list of her strengths and achievements, which I brought up several times in my last two episodes. And I also think that having that self-talk that I am worthy, I am deserving of love, I'm deserving of respect, and reinforcing that self-esteem all the time. It takes a dog, I heard, up to 42 times to learn a trick or to conquer a rule in the house. The owner needs to be that patient to get up and consistently approach that dog on a daily basis, reinforcing this new training. We are the same way. You can't expect to succeed in anything unless you apply consistent effort and make it habitual. Because once you make it habitual, this is something that you're just going to have under your wing for the rest of your life. That positive reinforcement, that validation. And that's why they do this, because they know if they can get you so far down, how difficult for you to get up, because they're down. They know how it is to be down, but they use a tactic that's unhealthy. Instead of recognizing and healing from it, they try to destroy other people, which is horrible. The next one I want to go over is no one else would put up with you. This phrase instills fear and isolation, and it suggests that the victim is unlovable or unworthy, or there's no hope for them. If they leave them, they're going to be on the street. It's used to create this sense of helplessness and dependency on the abuser. It's very sad. I wrote another story, Ryan and Lisa. Ryan turned to Lisa and said, no one else would put up with you like I do. You should be grateful. Now that was, it just stung her, okay? Those words that he said, they cut her so deep. She felt isolated. She believed that no one else would love her as he did. And this fear kept her in a toxic relationship. She was convinced that she was unlovable and that any attempt to leave would result in a loneliness scenario and despair. And oh my goodness, I have no one because I'm unlovable. Now, what's going on with Ryan? His ego is so inflated by the illusion of control, and he controls her and exerts it over and over and over again. And it's just really sad, because what he's doing is he's making her feel that she is unworthy of love from anyone else. He isolates her and strengthens his hold on her. And this manipulation, it cultivates this sense of helplessness in her, and making it difficult for Lisa to envision life outside of that relationship. She's completely hopeless. Now, what could she do to rebuild and get that programming going the other way? She needs to surround herself with people who appreciate her. She needs to get rebuilt. I would go to churches. I would go to any type of after-school activities that need extra hands. Engaging with positive people and seeing your self-worth will counter what he's doing. Again, that takes time, and that takes you going out into the community and really engaging so you can get that positive reinforcement. And that's what I would suggest Lisa to do. The next comment that I've heard is, I'm the only one who cares, which is kind of similar to the last two, but this one is another false narrative of loyalty and control. It's suggesting that the victim's worth is tied solely to the abuser. And that dependency, and it isolates the victim from external support. So my little short stories was Sophie and Ben. Sophie had a rough day and reached out to a friend, but her boyfriend Ben overheard, and he said, why bother talking to them? I'm the only one who truly cares about you. Now, he might have meant it to be comforting, but Sophie felt a surge of doubt. Gradually, she began to pull away from her friends. She, feeling like Ben was right. And this illusion of loyalty he created made her dependent on him. So that furthered her isolation from her friends and all of her support. Now, what's going on with Ben here? His ego relies on creating a false sense of loyalty and control. Also, he's poisoning himself positioning himself, poisoning. He's poisoning her mind and positioning himself as Sophie's sole source of care. He's eroding her confidence in relationships with others. And this manipulation keeps her trapped into the relationship. So now she's believing that no one else could provide the support she needs other than him. And that's his ego. That's his ego. What can Sophie do to counter that? I would definitely reach out to friends and family and go against what he told me. I would also talk to mentors who have similar backgrounds to what she's dealing with. And I would make a list of people in my life who had shown me kindness and support on a regular basis or once in a while, whatever, because those memories will reinforce and counter that feeling that he created in her. So more love and care. I remember growing up, everyone scattered like cockroaches. No one wanted anything to do with my family. They don't even talk to me today. It's just bizarre. And what I needed at that young age was that family and support to help to get out of that situation and hopefully have a sane mind, because you don't know which direction you're going to go. But because I didn't have those, I did have those interactions with other people. And it was people on the outside, people that I either worked with or that I knew from the beverage and ran into once in a while. But these moments, they planted seeds in me. They showed me kindness. They were nice to me. They talked to me. They cared about what I thought and, what goals I may have had. So those moments encouraged me to reach down deep in and really pull it out. So then that way I could start seeing it in a new light. And if I had my family, I'm sure I would be like right now on stage talking to people, because I would have healed much sooner. And it's crazy how your support systems that should have been there never show up. So I would advise that if anybody went through this, I'm the only one that cares. That is not true. They are not the only one that cares. If anything, the support system that you can create on the outside would feed you with soul food and everything, that you would be just so happy and so proud of yourself and probably doing things that you never thought you could do. So yeah, I don't like that phase. But the next phase is you always do this. And I had this a lot to me. And these phrases can be adjusted in different ways. These are just like little baselines that I put together. Now, this phrase, it generalizes a specific behavior into a negative pattern, making the victim doubt their capabilities and feel inadequate. It makes you self-doubt. It's used to assert control and undermine the victim's self-esteem. The story I used for this one is Carla and Mike. After forgetting to pick up the groceries, Carla's husband, Mike, snapped, "You always do this. You can't even remember simple things." Now, what happened to Carla? His accusations echoed in her mind. It made her question her memories and her capabilities, and she began to feel inadequate, doubting herself even. Now, I would tell Carla, start making a list so you don't have to deal with that and try to diffuse these little avenues that he uses these comments. But Mike brought up her forgetfulness. We all forget. We all have mistakes. We all have weaknesses. No one's perfect. It's just what it is. But the manipulator will magnify your imperfections that he thinks you have. A lot of the imperfections that they say you have are actually the opposite. You have a lot of it. It's just they're trying to chip it away because they want to put you beneath them. So that's their goal. Now, what was Mike's goal here? His ego. Let's talk about that. Bolstering his need for assert control over her, constantly labeling her. Maybe he diminished her self-esteem and reinforces a narrative where she feels incapable. So this allows him to maintain a sense of superiority while undermining her confidence. And what can Clara do? She can start by replacing those critical thoughts with constructive ones, making it like, no, you know what? I forgot this time, but I normally remember. Or guess what? I didn't forget. They were out of it, and just go back at him, and just really having yourself prepared. I do think that having some backup analogies of how to handle these situations, because when they happen, we go into shock mode and we kind of freeze. Our brain stops, our everything stops. So practicing what you would do in these instances privately or with a friend helps out tremendously, because what you're doing is you're already training your brain. You're already telling your brain, when this comes at me, this is what I'm going to do. And that's a very healthy way to be, because now you are creating hope that you can go ahead and smash that next time. If your abuser is just emotional and mental, I'm good with that. But when it gets more extensive, when it gets into violence or any other type of abuse like that, I would still tread lightly, because that explosion is horrific. And I've been in those situations where I stood up for myself and I just got my ass kicked. It wasn't a pleasure. It was a pain. And I was like, damn it, that one didn't work. But I kept going until I found one. I don't encourage anybody getting hurt. So if you can avoid that and just stay away from anything that flares these individuals that are violent, I highly recommend don't even bother, because they can't talk. Everything they do is physical, and they go into that physical sense because they are so behind and they are unable to express in words that they have to go to physical. I hope that made sense. Now, reprogramming and having yourself in a more positive light, instead of saying, oh, I always mess up, it's, oh, sometimes I forget, or it's okay to make a mistake. And one thing that I always say are, mistakes are fixable. No one can argue with that, because they are. If I make a mistake at my job, I'm willing to fix it. Yes, I made a mistake, but I can fix it, as long as the mistake didn't cost money. So, but little mistakes like this are fixable. Well, that concludes my day with you on these phrases, what these manipulators are saying, what do they mean, how the victims perceive that, and what the victims can do to reverse that and just start, programming healthy thoughts and behaviors into your body. If you're with an abuser, keep notes of these things, documentation. You can reach out to helplines. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is really good to contact. Children, get them out of any situation that causes any type of harm. They deserve to be protected. If you need the excuse to get away because of your children, then freaking use it. I need to go with my children. You need to say, and that separation gets them all love bomby. They're going to come back and miss you and all that, because they no longer have the person that does everything and then takes all of the bad that they feel. So you're no longer there, that punching bag that I keep calling it. But I enjoyed this episode. I hope you did. Leave your comments at the bottom and give me a thumbs up, and share my stuff with other people. I'm just out there trying to help you all, and I understand it's a tough journey, but it's a doable journey. So keep your head up high, keep on shining, and it's your time to rise up. Thank you. My name's Nancy Pusateri. That concludes today's episode, and thank you for joining me on this empowering journey today on Rising Up. Remember, healing from abusive trauma is a process, and it's okay to take it one step at a time. Each episode, I hope it will provide you with insights and tools and encouragement that you need to reclaim your power and find your voice. If you found this content helpful and inspiring, please consider subscribing, to my podcast and also liking, so that way it reaches out to more people like you and me. And also comment below, let me know of your thoughts, and if there's anything that you want me to talk more about. If you have any questions, that would be wonderful. Right there in the comments is a great place to go. You could also go to my website at www.risingup-nancypusateri.com. I have my email on there, my phone number. You can text me. I'm open to any type of conversation as long as it stays within the parameters of what I'm talking about. And remember, you're not alone in this journey. Together, we can rise up and find the power within to heal. Until next time, take care of yourselves and be kind to one another. Thank you.